Morning. Good morning. Good morning. Freshly shaved BBG, eh? Eh? Jesus, I'm gorgeous. Had a shave yesterday, yeah. Do you know why guys like me have a shave? We have a shave when we fuck up trimming our little beards. That's why you have a shave. The missus said, "Oh, you had a shave." I said, "Yeah, I fancy the change." The truth is I fucked up trimming the beard. That's what happens. You shave. It's like the scene in Father Ted when they get the car from Bishop Brennan, and they believe that they've put a little scratch in it, and Ted gets a little hammer and attempts to knock out the scratch or the little dent, and then destroys the car. That's what happens. You try and make it all trendy, and you make a balls of it because you're too tall for the mirror in the bathroom. You're like this, looking into a mirror. You screw your beard right up. How are you anyway this morning? Are you well? February 6th, 2020. The 6th of February, of course, a red letter day in the history of the great city of Manchester. I think you'll know why. I won't get into it. I'll assume knowledge, even though many of you listening overseas mightn't have a clue why the 6th of February might be a big date in the history of the great city of Manchester. I haven't yet figured out how to bring up web pages on the screen for you to see. I haven't figured it out yet. That's why it's the crappiest of the crap, the worst feckin' live stream that's ever shamed YouTube or Google. Well, this is it anyway. Yeah, back in 1958, a plane carrying the Manchester United football team and staff and journalists crashed, having attempted a couple of times to take off from Munich airport and failed because of ice on the wings. It eventually was cleared for takeoff but didn't successfully take off. It took off but crashed at the end of the runway, and some great football players but also some great writers and other men and women were killed on the plane. So it's marked every February 6th, of course. 61 years now, is that right? 62 years. 62 years this year. They're known as the Flowers of Manchester. Liam Billy Whelan was one of those who died. Great football player from Dublin. Duncan Edwards, of course, Tommy Taylor, Roger Byrne, Jeff Bent, Eddie Coleman from Salford. I was a massive Manchester United fan as a boy, loved them. Very important to me when I was a boy, very difficult childhood, and I used to hang on to a couple of things that used to give me great comfort. The radio being one of them. Elvis, I know, Elvis. Loved Elvis when I was a kid, still do. And Manchester United and Manchester United's history. So there you are, February 6th, 1958. All right, so yeah, you're messaging me. Thanks very much. Nice that you're messaging me. Before we look at the newspapers today, I just want to give a little push to this. We're back to radio again because you can't see me now. We're back to radio. You know how fond I am of the Trigger Warning Project, even if I think Hayden Hewitt is a big ignorant baldy gammon just like myself. Now, he's a great guy, Hayden, and his colleague, his partner in crime, Graham Booth. Dreadful thing, a couple of weeks ago, they lost thousands of pounds worth of equipment in a robbery, and they're fundraising to try and get some money back to rebuild what I believe is a very important project. They've got just shy of £1,300 now of a £4,000 target. I think if they got £2,000, let's hope they get more, but £2,000 would go a long way to helping them get back on their feet. So I'm asking you again to consider supporting that. I wholeheartedly endorse it because I know the lads inside out and I know the project. So there you go, GoFundMe.com. And GoFundMe doesn't take any of the money. If you want to, you can tip the GoFundMe platform, but they won't take any of the money you send to. So I'm going to say this: if you were planning on sending me £3 or £5 or £10 this month, February, to support the Richie Allen radio show, and God knows I do need it. Don't give it to me this month, give it to them. Okay? I need it always, but they need it more than I do. And remember, those of you who like to sarcastically make comments on the very rare occasion when I appeal for funding, there's nothing mandatory here. You can listen to the Richie Allen radio show as often as you want without ever paying for it. It'll never be behind a paywall, but I need support. But this month, to pay for it obviously, this month, if you've said to yourself, right, I'll give the BBG some money this month, don't give it to me this month, give it to them. Right? Okay. And leave them a little message saying this is on behalf of the Big Baldy Gammons radio show. Excuse me. Good luck to the lads with that. Very good lads. I know they have opinions and they say things from time to time about vaccines and about chemtrails and stuff, and I know it boils your piss. It actually does. If you could look inside your body with, I don't know, an MRI scan, you'd see your piss boiling as you're listening to Hayden and Graham. It's my morning dose of aspartame. How could you take that, you baldy bastard? When you, I know. Well, how can you smoke cigarettes or marijuana when you know how bad they are for you? I don't drink the non-sugar drinks very often, but I need them sometimes. And this morning I need them. So shut up about it. I'll drink what I like, and I like what I drink. I can feel the poison working its magic. I look a lot younger, don't I, with the old shave there? Alright, shut up about yourself, you big ignorant bastard. It's also freezing out there this AM. Very cold. Very cold. It's so cold the lawyers have their hands in their own pockets. Here's the Telegraph. Yes, that's an old one. Donald was acquitted. Unsurprisingly, by the Senate. I thought Jim Fetzer last night on the radio show, although he annoyed many of you for what you saw as an obtuse attitude when I repeatedly pressed him to accept that it doesn't matter who you vote for. But I like Jim. Jim and I are cut from the same cloth. How? You're not in his... Listen, Jim's got a big old brain. I don't profess to have the brain that Jim Fetzer has. But we're cut from the same cloth in that we enjoy speaking to people who disagree with us. Enjoy it. It's good fun. They're not evil. They're not the devil. They're your fellow human beings and they just see things a bit differently. But Jim quite rightly said you could have impeached that lunatic bastard there for lots of other things. You know, if they really wanted to get him. But of course they don't really want to get him. This is the whole thing, you see. It's theatrics there. Now, we will come back to the story that's on the front page. Social media bosses face duty of care prosecution. This is very serious. And I might just invite old Hayden Hewitt back on the radio show next week to talk about this. We'll come back to it because it's big, this. Nicky Morgan, the culture secretary who isn't an MP, who sits in the House of Lords these days, has been talking about what the government plans to do to compel social media companies to be aware that they need to be censorious, that they need to censor stuff to protect children. We'll come back to it. I tell you. Beat Jesus, huh? Sally O'Brien and the way she might look at you, huh? Trump survives impeachment to stand for 4 more years, says the iPaper. Yeah. He didn't survive it. There was no danger that Trump was going to be given the bum's rush from the Oval Office. No chance. The Times. Cancer Code offers hope of treatment decades early. You know, we are very interested this week, aren't we, on the Richie Allen radio show. This week we've taken a great interest in cancer this week. Very much enjoyed our conversations this week with Charles Pixley, of course, last night, and Dr. Amanda Vollmer on Tuesday. Jesus, my short-term memory is improving. Ordinarily, I would have been like, that's not to be in any way disrespectful to my guests now. It's just that when you don't sleep and you spend all your waking hours working, your short-term memory suffers greatly. You know, I can't remember what I did. What did you watch on telly last night, Richie, after the radio programme? This is genuine now. Yeah, The Stranger on Netflix, which is the worst pile of horse shit I've ever watched in my life. And I watched every episode of it with a gleeful future Mrs. Allen who loves that shit. Do you know what the future Mrs. Allen is watching at the moment? It fucking drives me mad. She's watching the most... I have to be careful here now. My gaydar is on full alert. John Roherty is not on the chat, is he? I love John. John's my gay friend. I don't mean to patronise John, by the way, and I believe John would accept that he isn't being patronised. I don't see any sign of John, so my gaydar is in full working order. John is not there, so we can talk about the gays behind their backs. Let's talk about the gays behind their backs while they're not on the chat. When they're on the chat, we have to pretend, we have to be all woke. We have to be all woke and all accepting of their gayness. When they're not on the chat, we can talk about the gays behind their backs. She's watching this fucking thing on Netflix with Martin Sheen and Jane Fonda and Lily Tomlin. About two old blokes who leave their wives to move in with one another. Two old gay guys leaving the two women. It's called Grace and something, isn't it? Now listen, come on. That's not why it's really annoying. It's really annoying because every fucking frame of it, I have employed my knowledge of mise-en-scène to evaluate this Grace TV show with Jane Fonda. Every fucking frame of it is woke. Down to Lily Tomlin's mixed race relationship with the fucking greengrocer. Everybody in it is gay. And she sits there and I say to her, hey Froggy, I say, hey Froggy, that's my pet name for her. I say, hey Froggy, what the fuck are you watching that for? Because I like it. What's it called? Grace and what? Mark says, that's a vile show, that gay one. That's not fucking helpful, Mark. What's the name of it? Anybody? Netflix, anybody? Or am I the only idiot that's subscribing to Netflix? Anyway, it's dreadful. It really is dreadful. Cancer Code offers hope of treatment decades early. There's a story inside the Times. Inside the Times. Basically, it says, this research, that cancers that typically get you late in adulthood can be discovered decades earlier through DNA mutations which show up in childhood. So they can see these DNA mutations and then prevent you getting cancer later on. It's interesting. It says, does the article by Rhys Blakely, that certain types of tumour, including ovarian cancer and an aggressive type of brain cancer, could ultimately be identified and perhaps eradicated before patients fall ill. That is interesting. 1,300 researchers participating in this, and it's a decade-long collaboration according to the Times. So it's interesting, isn't it? Isn't it? I think it is. What is that fucking show? Frankie and Grace, says Gail. That's the one. Frankie and Grace. Martin Sheen. The sad part of it is, in the bits of it that I've watched, sat alongside the French fucking lunatic that I'm shacked up with, is that it's acted very well, of course, by Jane Fonda, who's a genius, Lily Tomlin, who's an amazing actress, and well, Martin Sheen is Martin Sheen, isn't he? Where did he go to university, Gene and Martin Sheen? He went to university as a mature student in his 50s in Ireland, didn't he? Did he go to Limerick or Galway? Martin Sheen. He properly went to uni in Ireland, properly did the course. It wasn't a stunt. Went back to university and did it in Ireland and lived there. Long after he was a very famous actor in his 50s. Martin Sheen. We love Martin Sheen, don't we? Famously played Kennedy, of course. And was brilliant in The Departed. with Jack Nicholson and Mark Wahlberg and Leo DiCaprio. Fantastic Martin Sheen, what a guy. So that's the tragedy of this woke to fuck. Woke to fuck. That's the phrase. If something is trying to manipulate you and is going all diverse on your arse and portraying a very unrealistic snapshot of domestic life, because it's totally unrealistic, this particular show, well, then we say woke to fuck. It's woke to fuck, be Jesus. Soft day, sure I am, you know. Soft day. It is a soft day. Where did we leave it? The Times? The Metro, swap Duke for killer driver. I love this. Talked about this on the radio show yesterday. Anne Secoulis, Demolition Derby Anne, who left the military base and just decided, fuck it, I'm driving on the right-hand side of the road because, well, we're Americans and, well, we're right. And I don't think it's funny. And absolutely fucking cleaned out Harry Dunn, a young man minding his own business on his motorbike. Then Anne told the police, yeah, I'll hang around, but hop, skipped and fucking jumped across the pond at the speed of light with her diplomatic husband and refuses to come back and face the music. The only funny thing about all of this is, and God love Harry Dunn's parents, by the way, is when I laughed for about 20 minutes, is when Harry Dunn's parents went to the White House and Trump, the fuckwit, had Anne Secoulis. Almost like fucking surprise, surprise, Cilla Black. He had Anne Secoulis sequestered in another wing of the White House. And Trump planned this before. This is the White House reality television show president. Trump wanted to open the fucking double doors leading to the drawing room. And it was total television. Trump was going to say, well, Mr. and Mrs. Dunn, she's here tonight. Anne Secoulis. What did Trump think was going to happen? So the Dunn said, well, no, we don't want to meet her under these circumstances. We want to meet her in a court of law in the UK. Unbelievable. Fucking hell, right? Basket case. It's a lunatic asylum, this world. It is. It is. It is. Well, you didn't think you'd see her today, but tonight, Anne Secoulis. What was he expecting? The Daily Mail, the fugitive, and she's still behind the wheel. They've tracked down Anne Secoulis. Tracked down by the Mail. The woman who fled justice after the crash that killed the British teenager. There she is, Anne. Filling up the car, there she is. An exclusive in the Mail today. The woman is not going to go to prison. She wasn't drunk. She's just a fucking idiot. Apparently it happens a lot on US air bases here in the UK. The fact that we nonchalantly talk about US Air Force bases and a US military presence here, the fact that we nonchalantly talk about that like it's no big fucking thing, just illustrates even further this basket case fucking world we live in. However, they regularly drive off the base and drive on the wrong side of the road. It's a regular thing. Because they're fucking thick. Thick! English and Irish drivers can take our cars onto the continent and drive on the right-hand side of the fucking road. Because we're not thick. Going to France, sorry, tomorrow, Richie? Yeah, I'm going to France. Yeah. Future Mrs. Allen, yeah. The in-laws, yeah. Do you mind driving on the right-hand side of the road? Couldn't give a fuck, really. I just bear in mind that the roundabout rules are a little bit different. Although, having lived in Spain for nearly 10 years, there are no fucking roundabout rules. Worst drivers on planet Earth, the Spanish. They couldn't give a fuck. Couldn't give a fuck. Slow down at a roundabout. That's for Quakers. That's for Quakers. A roundabout is a thing to be overcome. It's an obstacle. Fucking Spanish. The amount of times I've nearly been crashed into on a roundabout in Spain. Fandabidozi. Yeah. Right. That was the Mail. The Guardian then. Police uncover epidemic of child sexual abuse from 70s and 80s. This is important because some senior police officers this morning have been having a pop or taking a few pot shots at the Prime Minister Boris Johnson. Johnson famously said, the sick little bastard, regularly said, and he said it more than once, but famously was caught on camera saying that the historic inquiry, the ICSA, the Independent Inquiry into Child Sexual Abuse, Alexis J. Johnson said it was money being spaffed up against the wall. Because that's what his class of person thinks about the rights of child sex abuse victims. Child sex abuse victims are irrelevant to people like Boris Johnson, because Boris Johnson belongs to a class of people that take great pleasure in the sexual abuse of children and others. So he said spaffing money up against the wall. Well, the police have come out today and said, far from it, pal. Far from it. We're currently sending file after file after file to the Director of Public Prosecutions, which is the Crown Prosecution Service here. And we're getting convictions. We're opening a big can of worms here. We're only scratching the surface. And that's in The Guardian today. Guardian also runs with that story we saw in the Times about DNA testing to determine whether somebody might get very serious cancers later on, doing so by looking at DNA mutations. Okay. Alrighty. The Sun. Union joke, says The Sun. Town Hall flags for Andrew's birthday. Yeah. Town Hall flags for Andrew's birthday. That's in the Mail as well. Councils have been ordered to mark the birthday of the Grand Old Duke of Porkies. Strangely, at that particular time, I couldn't sweat because of trauma in the Falklands. Fucking liar. Right? Bully kept coming in. If you watch back that interview with Emily Maitlis and you slow it down, properly slow it down, right, to one frame every 6 seconds, you'll see every 5 or 6 seconds, you can't see it in real time, but every 5 or 6 seconds, Bully from Bullseye comes in. The lying son of a bitch, huh? Son of a bastard. So the town councils are annoyed about being ordered to fly the Union flag because of this guy's, well, because of his stock. At the moment, his stock is very low because it is believed that he lied about whether or not he'd ever spent time in the company of Virginia Roberts Giuffre. The Mail has helpfully published the list of those for whom we fly the flag. There they are. The Duchess of Cornwall. Duke of Edinburgh, we know what that is. That's evil fucking Philip. That's the Queen's husband, evil Philip, who once said that he'd like to come back as a plague to wipe out humanity. What do you think about reincarnation, Philip? What would you like to come back as? Most of us would say, in our selfish ways, well, I'd love to come back and be a rock star. Love to be Bruce Springsteen or somebody like Bruce. Love to be like Elvis on stage. I'd love to come back like Cristiano Ronaldo. Love to be a top football player. No, the Duke of Edinburgh, I'd like to come back as a plague to wipe out humanity. Who fucking says that? And it was patently obvious that he wasn't fucking joking. Who says that? Want to come back as a plague? You are a fucking plague, you sick bastard. God is in his holy temple. Evil bastard. Right? Sick. So councils are annoyed. Well then, if you're annoyed, don't fly the fucking flag then. How can you be ordered to fly the flag? Just don't fly it. It's as simple as that. The Mirror. The Queen paid off my mortgage for saving Princess Anne's life. We won't get into this. Some former boxer foiled an attempt to kidnap Princess Anne back in the 70s, very early 70s, I believe. And for his bravado, for his daring do, the Queen paid off his mortgage. Fair enough. Financial Times, we never bother with the Financial Times, do we? No, fuck off. Fuck off. The Star, you horrible little snowflakes. We talked about this yesterday. Cambridge Uni wanting the military to avoid freshers' events. But I think they've been misrepresented myself. I like to bash the snowflakes just like everybody else, as you well know. But I think they've been misrepresented by the newspapers. I think there's very good reasons to not want these fucking clowns around you. Military people, recruiters. Fuck off, you know. Like I said, nobody's ever attacked this country. The Luftwaffe, maybe. You make an argument, Germany. The UK was defending itself, Britain. But since then, all the UK has done is prosecute wars of aggression. Dozens of them. This country, if you prescribe the country, if you evaluate it as a single person, as a single entity, this country is totally fucking psychotic. So yeah, stay away from campuses. Yeah. Lovely. The Star. Good morning to you then, on the old chat there. Hope you're in fine fettle this morning. I got Chuck Ocelli from the Ocelli report, the Ocelli effect, in fact, the Ocelli effect. I'll be talking to Chuck, and then in the second hour today, for the first time in 2020, I'm going to open Skype and the phone line, and I'm going to be BBC about it. When you come on to the phone-in show, I'm not interviewing you, so I want you to come on and make your points in 90 seconds to 2 minutes. We'll do a phone-in, we'll get as many calls as we possibly can onto the programme, alright? And we'll have a bit of fun. Told you I couldn't organise a piss up in a fucking brewery. Look at the state of that, look. Look at the state of that. Look at that, look. Look at the fucking state. Hang on. Oh! There you are. Right, those are the details. If you want to phone in between 6 and 7, 5 past 6 and 7 o'clock, right? Okay, I'll leave them up there for a minute. I'll put them on the end. Okay. So thanks to those of you that are chatting away there on the live chat there. Hi to Anne. Hi to Wayne. To Kevin. To Charlie Girl. Wants to come back as a tree. Why not? Charlie says Charles wants to come back as one of Camilla's tampons. That's incorrect, Charlie. Charles, I believe, has in the past declared that he would like to come back as a pair of women's trousers. So you're nearly right. Close, but no cigar. Hang on, can I give it to her? No, I can't give it to you. Graham Booth, the aforementioned Graham Booth, wants to come back as Michelle Pfeiffer's undergarments. Why not? We are filthy bastards, men. And we're led by the nose. That's why so many of us have foot fetishes. And undergarment fetishes. We're led by the nose. It's perfectly natural. Don't be ashamed, boys. Don't be ashamed. It's perfectly natural. Nothing wrong with it. I'm not ashamed of my fetishes, of which they are legion. I love legs, me. I love legs. Legs. Future Mrs. Allen's a great pair of legs. Knee-high boots. Either with a stiletto heel or flat. I don't care. I don't discriminate. Love a bit of that. Love a bit of that, yeah. Said it before. Emma Peel. Avengers. 60s. Marvellous. The Queen of Sin episode. Oh yeah. Marvellous. Marvellous. Gianna's bemused, bewildered, puzzled. Can't imagine why the Queen is inviting more ridicule. Flying the flag for Andy's birthday. Yeah, Yeah, absolutely. It probably isn't coming directly from the Queen. The Queen probably hasn't a fucking Scooby-Doo what's going on most of the time these days. Yeah. Okay. Thursday morning it is. Good job. Okay. It's 10 o'clock. So I'm going to have a look at one or two stories inside the papers that I found very interesting today. I woke up Maureen McAleer's son. Did I, Maureen? I've not been shouting this morning, have I? At least I don't know if I'm half deaf anyway. Why? That's why. Because I have my cans turned up very loud when I'm on the radio, you know. So I'm very old sounding. I'm very old sounding. Just a final quick mention. Seeing as Graham Booth is there. Trigger warning. Fundraiser to recover the equipment that was stolen from the offices where they are based. Up to 1,280 quid. Help them get to $2,000. It'll go a long way. They'll do a bit of bargain shopping. And I wholeheartedly endorse it because they are as genuine and as honest as the day is long. So good luck to the lads there, okay? Okay. There's the phone-in details. I'll leave them there for the duration. Right, yeah. This is important, I think. Inside the Daily Mail today. Good morning, good morning. A 13-year-old girl is starting a legal battle to force a council, we love councils, to withdraw guidance to schools on how to support youngsters who question their gender identity. This has been described, as you can see there by the Mail, as a landmark legal case. Right? The pupil, who attends a co-ed secondary school, says her safety, privacy and dignity are compromised by Oxfordshire County Council's Trans Inclusion Toolkit, or TIT for short. Trans Inclusion Toolkit, appropriately abbreviated to TIT. It's a 65-page guide, and it says the trans students or pupils can use the school lavatories and changing rooms that correspond to their gender identity. Why not? Why not? Shall we live in a basket case fucking world anyway, don't we? Okay? It also says that on residential trips, trans pupils should use the dorm appropriate to the sex they identify as. And this young girl says, like, fuck you can. She probably doesn't say that because she's 13. It's funny that we get criticised in Ireland for not pronouncing our THs. The hard TH. You know, 13. It's funny we get slagged off for that by fucking cockneys. 13. What the fuck is 13? It's 13 or 13. It can't be 13. 13. That's why I don't watch EastEnders. Just for that reason alone. So she says, or lawyers say, the Trans Inclusionary Toolkit, or TIT, puts her at risk, the 13-year-old. She says she feels sad, powerless and confused by the advice. I don't understand how allowing boys and girls to share private spaces is okay, she says. And of course she's right. She's right, God bless her. Right? TIT. I've had an exchange with a trans woman over email. And I wanted to publish the exchange. But the trans woman, a person born male who identifies as a woman, has asked me not to publish the email exchange because it would be breaching the Data Protection Act. So, curmudgeonly, gammon-like though I might be, I say fair enough, I won't publish the correspondence between us, but I am going to talk about it without mentioning your name, like it or fucking lump it. The trans person came on to me a few months ago and has corresponded with me a few times, the trans woman. Let's say Michelle. It isn't Michelle, but let's say Michelle. And really, without really understanding what Michelle was doing, she, even though, right, okay, we'll say she, was very serious. So Michelle said to me through the correspondence, I'm going to synopsize this as briefly as I possibly can. Michelle said that it's all very well for me to say that I believe that we should live and let live, and that if a man chooses to identify as a woman, he should be allowed to, without being harassed or threatened or marginalised or discriminated against. So far, so good. I says to Michelle, well, yes, that's what I believe. Michelle says, that's not good enough, Richie. You are still a threat to my existence whether you like it or not. Michelle went on to explain that I am a threat to Michelle's existence because I always finish my mini lectures on how I feel about trans people with what I believe to be fair, which is I will never believe that somebody born with a penis will ever be a woman. That's my personal belief. However, they shouldn't be discriminated against, they shouldn't be abused, they shouldn't be mocked, they shouldn't be isolated, they shouldn't be treated as if they are not human. They should be allowed to live as they choose to live. But that doesn't mean that I will ever believe blah, blah, blah. Michelle said, very strongly in an email to me, that I'm dangerous. And that what I say, although sounding very fair and decent, is actually threatening the existence of trans people. And that children shouldn't hear people like me. Because by saying that I don't believe that a man can ever really be a woman, I am denying the existence of trans women and trans men. That's a fact. So I got back to Michelle and said, well, if you feel, again, as strongly as you do about it, let's have a debate about it on the radio. But the trans people don't want to have a debate about it on the radio. And that's where we're going, you see. And that's why the last time I had Peter Tatchell on the radio show, which was about 6 or 8 months ago, it got very heated towards the end. Because I said to Tatchell, it's not good enough anymore for people like me to say, and mean it from the heart, I don't think the trans woman is any lesser human being. I don't think that they should be, treated differently. They should be discriminated against. And I'll stand up for them. I always will. But I don't believe that they are the opposite sex to that which they were born. Tatchell said to me that these ideas, people shouldn't have these opinions. People shouldn't think like that. And that has to be taken on and dealt with. Thoughts. So, interesting that there's going to be a court case beginning today or tomorrow in Oxfordshire. This young girl saying, listen, people can be what they want to be, but you're putting me into an unsafe situation when you're allowing boys come and spend the night in an all-girls dormitory. There's a problem there, and I'm not having it. And I wish her all the very best with it. Isn't it amazing that the debate is moving such that trans folks are now saying that it's not okay. It's not okay to back our rights of self-identification. Excuse me. It's not okay to back our right to pursue happiness, to pursue success, to be treated like everybody else. It's not okay to support that anymore. You've got to affirm, you've got to avow that you believe that I am a woman. but I don't believe you're a woman. So we're in dangerous times. That's a court case we've got to watch very closely. Imagine being accused of denying somebody's existence because you don't believe that they could ever be a real woman. Crazy how it's moved on. You know, the gay and lesbian rights movement, which was hugely important, let's be honest about it. We know what was going on in the 70s and 80s. I know gay people. We all know gay men and women. And we know older gay men and women. We know what they had to put up with. It was fucking disgusting. And what they wanted at the time, gay men and women, it's amazing. It's so different. What they wanted was just to be fucking left alone. They didn't want to change society. They didn't. They didn't want to change how people thought. They didn't demand that they were embraced. They didn't demand that everybody made a public declaration of fucking, obeisance almost to them. They didn't. They just wanted to be left alone. Listen, I'm gay. I have a male partner. Leave us alone. If I'm out having a fucking drink, leave me alone. Just leave me alone. That's what they wanted. And I'm summing it up there maybe a bit blithely, maybe. But that's the difference. Now they want control. It's a takeover now. Some of them. And I think it's a minority. You have to do this. You have to say this. You can't think that. Well, go and fuck yourself with that fucking penis that you have that shows me that you're not a real woman. I'll think whatever I want to think. Be happy that the majority of people support your right to live as you choose. Be happy that we live in a tolerant society. Embrace that. Don't go telling people that if you feel like it, you should be allowed to sleep in women's dormitories or you should be in women's prisons. No, you don't get to fucking do that. And we need to stand up to it, I think. That's how I feel about it anyway. Imagine this lunatic basket case fucking lunatic asylum we live in. People think they're free, Oh, we're free. Politicians talk about China. They talk about Iran. They talk about Bahrain. The fucking cheek of them, We have a situation where a woman is having to sell her house to pay for the medical cannabis for her child's epilepsy. You live in a society whereby you could conceivably go to prison for growing a plant. Something given to us by nature. Something that has nothing to do with mankind. Nature said, here is this plant. Nature said, here it is. It's amazing. It can do lots of really special things in pain relief and in managing symptoms of illnesses. It's wonderful, said nature. Have it. You've got a tyrannical, totalitarian government who says you can't grow it and use it to treat yourself and your family. It's a fucking lunatic asylum. And it's an excellent story, but a tragic story in the Times today about a woman who the cost of getting the medicinal cannabis, the oil, is such that she's having to sell her house to fund care for her child. Yeah. Christ, huh? What else have I got for you? I've got loads, but I've waffled on a bit, to be honest. 10:15. I've got loads to do today as well. I've got loads to do. Cancer relief, says Nunyu. Yeah, I totally believe it. I interviewed Rick Simpson a couple of times over the years. I've met many a man and woman. The wonderful Vera Toomey from Cork. Wonderful Irish woman, Vera. Fucking love that woman. Hard as nails. Mothers will do anything for their children. They shouldn't have to do anything. If Vera Toomey wants to get a greenhouse, grow some cannabis, and learn how to extract the oil, why should some fucking man wearing a suit in Dublin say you can't do that or you could be arrested? What the fuck, like? But that's where we are. We'll finish with the social media companies. We'll finish with the social media companies. Thanks for all your comments, by the way. There's somebody called Jason who's commented a couple of times about beer. Jason seems to have a bit of an obsession with the BBG. You're a bit of an idiot, Jason. This obsession with beer and hangovers. I'm proudly alcohol free since the 31st of January 2019. I'm not drinking, and I'm proud of it. I'm not saying I'm not going to drink again. I have every fucking intention of it. But I was getting a bit too fond of it. Son's all common sense, really. After work, I was getting a bit fond of it. A couple of stiff Bacardis only after work to wind down after, a very busy day. My days are very busy. And I had to stop that. And to stop it, I had to stop it full stop. So I can see myself having a bottle of wine maybe this coming weekend, as I might be entertaining a friend. And a glass of wine with dinner maybe at the weekends in the future. But my relationship with alcohol has changed. And it will never go back to the way it was. That is, I just won't be drinking like I used to drink. Certainly not in the week. And I'm seeing the benefits of it. I mean, I'm very tired at the moment because we've had the bombshell of the pup fucking nuclear event in the house, which has been crazy. She's settling down a bit and sleeping a bit more during the night time now. Not that she had any problem with sleeping, but when they're very young, they do go to the toilet maybe 3 times a night. You have to let them out. And she's been brilliant. She hasn't weed in the house. In fact, when she wants to go out, she just comes to the side of the bed, jumps up, scratches me in the face. I don't get much sleep anyway, so it's made me very tired. But that being said, not having alcohol has been brilliant, I think. I feel sharper. I feel sharper during the radio show. I'm sharper during the day when I'm producing the radio show. And I've got a little bit more energy even though I'm not sleeping at all. So, yeah, I highly recommend it. If you are somebody who finds yourself having a drink every day, even if it's only one, and in my case it was only 1 or 2, or if you find yourself having 4 or 5 every day, have a think about it, stop it, and confine yourself to only having a drink maybe on Saturday, maybe on Sunday, and you'll see the benefits of it, as I am seeing the benefits of it. So, yeah. I was a bit of a binger, me, Weekends. Sometimes I'd go on a binge. And I had to stop that. Alcohol is too cheap. Don't get me going off on that one. Excuse me. Of course, the establishment loves us pissed. Excuse me. And having a dependency of sorts on alcohol. Whether it's a major dependency or whether it's just that little crutch. The establishment, the system, whatever you want to call it, loves it. It's one of the reasons why alcohol is so cheap everywhere, I believe. Right, finally. We've got to move on. Finally. Jason came back to say to me that he's dry now for 4 years. So that's the reason for your obsession with my alcohol consumption, Jason. Well, if you're dry for 4 years, mate, congratulations. It's none of my business why you decided to do that. But congratulations on it. I won't be dry. Like I said, I'll have a bottle of wine this weekend, I think, because I fancy one. But never again during the week. Never again. Those days are over. The Telegraph. This is important, right? It's very important because of the implications. Right, so we've heard a lot about social media companies and harms. And how children are being harmed on there because of the things that children are being exposed to. Okay, we've heard a lot about self-harming, suicide, child abuse. These are important things. It is important that a child can... a part of me just wants to scream. Children, I don't believe children should be... fucking hell. Can you avoid it in 2020? Can you avoid your child having an online presence? Probably not, so forget that. They should be able to go online without being targeted by paedophiles. I was astounded, wasn't I, 18 months ago, when one of these paedophile hunting organisations came on the radio show to explain how they entrap those who would groom children online. And I was astounded at how prolific it is. I couldn't believe it. And how easy it is for these groomers to get the children online. So there's a problem. This might be a great example of David Icke's problem reaction solution. So there is a genuine problem. So Nicky Morgan is talking about what are we going to do to compel the social media companies to take responsibility for the welfare of children. Okay? The government plans, which, hang on a second now, which will see Ofcom be appointed as the new regulator. Ofcom regulates the media in the UK anyway, the broadcast media. Ofcom will be appointed the new watchdog to enforce the statutory duty of care, which will require Facebook and Google and others to protect children from harms such as abuse and self-harm. The parliamentary bill enacting the duty of care, which the Telegraph brags it has campaigned for, the parliamentary bill might be in place within a year and a half. The plans will go to Cabinet today and will be launched to coincide with Safer Internet Day next Tuesday. Next Tuesday is Safer Internet Day, when Nicky Morgan will publish results of a consultation on last year's white paper on online harms. And we talked about that a lot last year. Here's the spooky bit. Because on the one hand, they say this is about protecting children from being exposed to self-harm, to online abuse, and to dreadful things that they might see on the internet, on social media. Dreadful things. You know, graphic depictions of violence, you know, videos from war zones, beheadings, all that. Very serious, very important. That's how they sell it. But what they're really trying to do becomes apparent when you read a bit further down the story. Because the story says, as you can see there, second last paragraph, let me bring it up. Other legal harms to be covered by codes are expected to include disinformation that causes public harm, like anti-vaccine propaganda, cyberbullying, harassment. What constitutes harassment? And pornography, which again is a given. It should go without saying that you protect children from viewing pornography on online. So really what the online harms white paper, which was published by the government last year, leading to legislation in the next 18 months, which will compel social media companies to remove harmful posts. Really what it's all about is not really to protect children from child abuse, because the establishment couldn't give a fuck about children being abused. It's ultimately to bring in a level or a degree of censorship. I think we've said this before, that even Huxley or Orwell couldn't have imagined in their wildest dreams. Because everybody is online. The world is. It's where the world lives now. It's where public discourse takes place, is online. And it happens on Facebook, on Twitter. I don't have the statistics. I don't. But I am guessing that debate around geopolitical issues taking place on Twitter and Facebook alone must constitute 90% at least of all debate in the world. It must do. It must be a figure as large as that. The world goes to Twitter and Facebook to vent its spleen, to to emote, to offer their opinions. That's where we go. Now, governments, not just the UK government, is going to compel the social media companies to start removing stuff that they say could be harmful. Stuff like posts about vaccines. Stuff like maybe posts about Syria, maybe. Maybe posts about banking, maybe. Maybe posts about the influence of the Israeli government in Western democracies, maybe. This is where it all goes. Censorship on steroids. And the vast majority of people in the world will be none the wiser. They won't pay any attention to it. They won't pay any attention to it. It'll just be, well, that's the way it is. Or they won't even notice it. Stuff won't be showing up on their timelines anymore because Facebook has decreed it to be harmful or has decreed it to be untrue. Propaganda. Disinformation, says the government. Untrue. Who gets to decide what is and isn't untrue? Presumably Facebook and Twitter and Google, given the chance, would say that the idea that the chemical weapons attack in Douma in Syria in April of 2018 was faked. Presumably Google, Facebook, Twitter would say, well, that's not true. So anybody talking about the fact that the chemical weapons attack in Douma was a false flag meant to discredit the Assad government, presumably Google and Facebook and Twitter would say, well, that's fake news. But you see, it isn't fake news. It's been exposed by people like Peter Tatchell. It wasn't exposed by Peter Tatchell. It was exposed by a guy who used to work for the BBC. And we know about it because we were able to read about it on Twitter and on Facebook. But in the near future, that stuff won't appear on Twitter or on Facebook or on Google because it will be determined that it's fake news. It's where we're going. It's where we are, really, isn't it? It's not where we're going, it's where we are. Loads more I could have gotten into this morning. The papers are very interesting. Stuff about assisted dying in the papers. We might get into that later on, we might not. I will love you and leave you now. Thanks for all your messages there. Thanks so much, by the way, to Barry. Thanks, Barry. The Garda took my 4 plants, marijuana, cannabis plants, on Boxing Day, says Barry. Did they, Barry? Bullying me to rat. Were they? Trying to get you to give them names of other people. I'm 48, not 15, says Barry. Jesus. Wow. Imagine that. You can't grow a plant. We have laws against that sort of thing. I know when people say they're free, we're free. We're free. We live in a free country. We're free. The Chinese, terrible. Totalitarianism. Chinese, terrible. Iran. Look around you. Look around you. Right, that's it. Back today at 5 o'clock. I'm going to leave you the contact details before that. For the radio show. Okay? Those are the contact details, the phone numbers you need, and the Skype name, which is Chat with Richie. See you at 5.